Hey everybody, what's up? Welcome to another episode of Better Future Conversations with your host Mike Sylvester, aka the Financial Jet Li. Boom, boom, boom. As always, I'm super excited to continue this journey with you, this journey to a better financial place. And in this week's video, I want to talk to you about a very, very special topic. How do you use credit wisely? How do you leverage other people's money to improve your financial situation, to help you to achieve your financial goals and so on. And a very, very interesting video. Do not go away. I'll be back very shortly. So my friends, welcome back. Before I jump into the nuts and bolts of this week's video, of course, I want to take this opportunity, as always, to say how immensely grateful I am to all of you for the outpouring of support and for the continued growth and development of this very important project. I launched Better Future Conversations earlier this year, and so far, I've had close to 800 subscribers. I've had how many views? Persons have gotten copies of the book, The Grenadian Dream, A Roadmap to a Better Economic and Financial Future. So we are growing, by leaps and bounds, and I want to thank you for that. I want you to encourage others who have not done so as yet to basically, subscribe to the channel and to get copies of The Grenadian Dream, because that is, of course, a centerpiece of this very important project. This book is replete with strategies that would help you to revolutionize your financial situation, also help you to achieve your financial goals. So my friends, don't hesitate if you have not done so. Please, get a copy and subscribe to this channel, and let us, as I say, join the conversation. I just also want to use the opportunity to thank persons who supported the great summer yard sale, back in Grenada during the August period. This was an inaugural event, the very first yard sale. I hope to make it an annual event, and you also can, have a yard sale. Yard sale is really something very, very easy to do. I'm sure there's stuff around your house that you no longer need, stuff that you don't use. It's really an opportunity for you to earn some extra income, as well as to get rid of the clutter around your house. So my friends, I'm encouraging you to do this as well. But I just want to thank persons who came out and support the yard sale. It was, something that I did with very little planning, but I was surprised, at how successful it was, and I hope to learn, from that experience and build on that. So come next year, we're gonna have a big bumper event. My friends, I also want to talk about the book signing event that I was planning to have in August. Of course, that did not come out. I was able, of course, to get persons copies of The Grenadian Dream. I had a limited amount of copies. I also want to apologize for those persons who I would have promised copies, of course, but I was not able to deliver. But trust me, I'm going to have this event before the year's end, and you can get your copies. Persons who, for instance, are interested in getting a copy, you can direct message me on 202-701-8623. You can also follow on my website, www.betterfutureconversation.com. You can follow this channel to get updates in terms of when the event will be held, and better yet, you can place your order in advance so that you don't get left out. So, my friends, that aside, I want to jump into this week's video, and I want to talk to you about 5 strategies that you can use to better manage your debts. So the first strategy I want to talk to you about is the proper use of credit cards. And so my friend, credit cards can be a useful tool I mean, the way the world is going these days, very soon credit card will become a very, very essential item. It will become like a cell phone. Before nobody had cell phone, but now you cannot do it with a cell phone. Credit cards will become like this, and you need to understand how to properly use them to avoid the pitfalls and, of course, to take advantage of the benefits. And one of the major pitfalls of credit cards is improper use. Credit cards come with very, very high interest rates. The average interest rate on a credit card is 20%. It is even higher, for instance, if you use a credit card to do cash advances from the ATM and so on. So, my friends, how to avoid some of these high interest costs is that you pay the full balance on the card every month, right? So, the credit card has a cycle, and there is a payment date, and the bank will send you a statement and say, this is the minimum amount of the credit card. So they will sort of encourage you to pay the minimum amount because for them it benefits them. If you just pay the minimum amount, you're going to pay this credit card forever. So how to avoid the fees is basically to pay the full balance at the end of every payment cycle, and you would avoid these charges. Paying on time as well would ensure that you avoid late fees, because late fees is something that is also quite significant when it comes to credit card. And how you can do that is to get into an arrangement with your bank so they can take from your checking account or your savings account and make the payment on that specified date, so you avoid the late charges. Also, if you don't have a credit card as yet and you're thinking about getting a credit card, I would advise that you get a card that doesn't have annual fee. Some cards, they have an annual fee, and plus you have to pay the interest rate. I would advise that you get a card that doesn't have an annual fee. Okay. I would also advise that you get a card that has benefits. Some of the cards come with, cashback. Some of the cards come with points, that you get when you make purchases. So some of these points and cashback can be used for other purchases and so on. So that's one benefit that comes with credit card. So you can choose one that has some of these benefits. Now, if you already have credit card debts and there is an opportunity for you to get another credit card, I would say you can transfer your credit card balance to a credit card that has a low introductory rate, and use that period where you can quickly pay down, the credit card balance situation. So that's really credit card. So the second strategy that I want to talk to you about really is avoid some of these payday loans and these loan sharks. And I want to throw into that, higher purchases, because they provide very attractive terms and conditions for you to get the services. Of course, at the back end, you have very stringent collection procedures, and you have built into the arrangements some very high fees and charges and interest that you don't see, what is called hidden costs. And so, for example, you may walk into a store and then you can get a television, for instance. It's listed at $1,000, and they will tell you can get it on credit, no payments for the first 2 months. You pay this low amount, for X amount of period. And what you find is that they add a number of fees. So at the end of the day, you end up paying 3-4 times the listed price of the product. And that of course can be, quite damaging to your financial situation. So what I usually encourage is that if you don't have cash, you can go to the bank or the credit union and get a loan, a fixed rate loan, so whether it's 12% or whatever it is, and use that to buy the items cash, and then of course you pay down the loan. Now, ideally, as I said, buy these items with cash, and how you can ensure that is that you can put aside some savings every month, and when you need to make a purchase, you can dip into that. So you can call it whatever sexy name that you want, so that you can have we call it a plans fund, you can call it a luxury fund. You can call it your personal fund or your personal stash, to help you to, get some of these items. So that is number two. Number three, basically, is that I would say you must try to borrow for assets, and not liabilities. A lot of people get tied up in that. Like the example I just gave, for instance, borrowing to buy consumer items is really borrowing for liabilities. If you can avoid it, then of course, as I said, use the bank option or the credit union option. But you must try to stay away from borrowing for these consumables, and try to borrow for assets. And how do I distinguish between the two? Is that I say that if you must think about it in the context of, if this is bringing a cash flow, if this is bringing a return to me, then it's an asset. I want to talk about, for instance, your house. Because a lot of people will, build their primary residence and say this is the asset and this is the most significant investment of their lifetime and so on. I don't subscribe to the fact that it's an investment, because all that's happening is that it's taking money away from you. And if you have a 30-year mortgage at X, interest rate, it means that you have to be working for the rest of your natural life to be able to pay that mortgage. Now, if you were to build a duplex and rent out part of the duplex, it means that you have some income coming in. You still get a lower interest rate on the mortgage. And there are also other benefits that come with having a mortgage. For instance, there are some tax benefits that come with having a mortgage, and I will do a video on that at some later stage. The fourth point is related in some respects, and the fourth point has to do with the decision of whether and to what extent, or the debate as to whether and to what extent you should use your extra income, if you have, to pay down your mortgage faster or to invest it. And I think the simple answer is really, if you can find another investment that can give you a higher rate of return than the cost of borrowing, then you should invest it. So for example, if your mortgage is 6% and you can find another investment, whether it's on the stock exchange, whether it's on in some other business venture that you're planning to go into, that can give you a rate of return of 10, 9, 11, 12, whatever percent, I would advise that you invest the monies rather than pay down your mortgage faster. So that is number 4. And number 5, very quickly, is not accumulating debts too quickly. You can get carried away, and what you may have is a situation where a significant part of your income is tied up in debts. And if they were to have a shock, for instance, if you have some medical emergency and you do not have savings, then it means that you probably cannot borrow because your TDS is already too high. Or if there is some other situation, you may end up losing some of the assets that you'd have borrowed for, because you just borrowed too quickly. You have too many debts on your hand. So it's something called debt overhang. And so you should basically try to avoid debt overhang. My friend, this is basically what I want to talk to you about this week. I want to again thank you for your continued support of this very important project. I want you to share it with your friends. I want you to tell somebody who needs to hear this, because this is very, very valuable, very useful information. And let us continue this journey together. Get persons to join the conversation, because by having this conversation, this is how we learn, this is how we grow, and this is how we get closer to our financial goals and our dreams. Until next time. Boom. Boom. Boom.